The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, the beginning of another exciting week in the Riv.
Something's always going on in the Riv.
Always.
Well, guess what?
Guess what?
We finally know where Jasiel's going.
We're going to take him away.
Berlin, New Hampshire.
Yes.
But what a vacation that is.
but he may not be going. He's putting in for another extension.
Of course.
I think he's going to...
Citing COVID. Remember that.
Yeah, COVID and Jen's trial.
Jen's trial, correct.
Jen Adre's trial. And, you know, he's going to find an excuse for something. He's just going to try to stay out of jail forever. Mm-hmm. And this judge is very disappointing.
He is.
Very disappointing.
He is. But I thought it was interesting that the response that came from the U.S. Attorney's Office came directly from Rollins, who just got sworn in.
Yeah.
And she said, justice delayed.
That's right. It's not justice served.
It's not justice served, correct. So that made it quite interesting to see that. A lot of the information that we're talking about can be found in the Herald News. Not that I'm advocating for it, but
far be it from us.
Far be it to advocate for that. But Joe Good wrote a very decent article on it, and it's just interesting when you see this all the time, and you get to see some of the story behind it. But again, this would be his third delay.
Yeah.
His third delay. Yeah. And if you or I went, we wouldn't even make it out of the courtroom.
Oh, no. We'd be directly to jail.
Right.
Yeah, do not pass go directly to jail.
Right.
It'd be
do not collect $200.
That's
none
right.
Of that.
None of that stuff. We're going right to the slammer. That's the end of us, without a doubt. Well,
and I made the comment in my weekend flush that if Woodlock is going to grant another extension, he might as well just give him a stay until after his appeal.
Yeah.
Just do it. I mean, don't keep doing this 30-day stuff.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. And, you know, it keeps him in the news, which he should be out of the news now. He was tried, He was convicted. If he gets an appeal, they can deal with the appeal. But just go, do the time, And for a judge who was considered a tough judge, he's really... It's not doing well, but let me segue quickly before I get back to the city, because I heard on the radio today some stuff. Quickly, again, I got a few reports from our spies. Let's remember there were 3 police officers shot over the weekend, and 2 are dead. 1 in Texas, a deputy, and 1 in New York, 22-year-old police officer. And the other police officer is fighting for his life. And, just ambushes, totally random, because they were police officers. The society is out of control. And now the new mayor, who's a former police officer, is disgracing himself already because he ran as a tough on crime because New York's out of control. But again, he's pulling the old stuff. You got to get guns off the streets. We got to get the federal guns off the streets. Well, listen, criminals don't use legal guns, number one. New York City has some of the toughest gun laws in the country. California, Massachusetts has some of the toughest gun laws in the United States. Laws don't work because only law-abiding people listen to laws. And just as an aside, the last 3 murders in New York were not committed with guns. 2 were stabbings, and 1 was a woman pushed by a career felon in front of a subway train. So they don't need guns to kill you. But the fact that they're still assassinating police officers for just no reason except the fact that they're police officers shows a tremendous breakdown in this society. with this society, it seems that the wokies cannot understand that there are bad people in the world. They think they can love everybody into being this to become some kind of world of no crime and everybody loves everybody, and that's not true. Historically, there have been wars. There's always someone always wants to be the boss, whether it's the head of the silverback gorilla in a gorilla group, or the head of the lion pride. There's always a leader. And there's always
an alpha male.
There's always an alpha somewhere that has to lead, and there's always somebody that wants something. And unfortunately, there are people who are just career criminals. They have no regard for anybody, and they kill people indiscriminately. They're still assassinating police officers for what? I mean, that particular one in New York was a domestic again. And I always love it when the wokies say, well, yeah, you got to get rid of the police and send social workers to these domestics. And we all know the police officer that was shot in Texas over the weekend and died was at a traffic stop. The two police officers shot in New York City were at a domestic. But it was an ambush. They were called for a domestic, and they got ambushed as soon as they walked in. Someone called and said they were having trouble with their son. They responded, and from the reports, the son came blasting through the door with and started shooting. So, people who do this are barbarians. They're the scum of the earth. And for people to walk around with their head up their derriere so fast to think everybody is Mother Teresa needs to get out in the real world. And the problem we have here is this is happening to poor people. When it starts happening to rich people,
something will get done.
Something will get done. They murder a whole bunch of people in Chicago every weekend. It's been like that forever. Every weekend we hear how many shootings there are in Chicago, how many deaths are in Chicago, black on black crime. Nobody cares because they're poor people. And that's the reality. So I had to make that because it's disgraceful. Our society is coming unraveled. We have no respect. There's no respect anymore for anything. And I saw a real one that made me nauseous this morning. This is what the wokies do. They try to pretend by changing words and definitions that makes these criminal element go away. It doesn't. It just makes them more emboldened. I saw somebody today and it's a new one on me, the acronym. Do you know what the acronym MAP means?
It could mean a lot of things.
Yeah, well, this one was really nauseating to me. It means minor attracted person. So this is a pedophile saying that he was being stigmatized, and he should be referred to as a minor attracted person because he doesn't want to be stigmatized. Well, he's entitled to his opinion. As far as I'm concerned, he should be stigmatized and institutionalized.
That wasn't the Dartmouth cop that said that, was it?
No. This was somebody on a college campus.
Oh, okay.
And this is the problem. We change words now, and now they're playing privilege bingo. Did you see that one? Mm-hmm. They had a bingo card, and these were privileges. Now, some of these military child. So some kid that gets uprooted from the United States has to move all over the world with his family and make no permanent friends because they're serving their country is privileged. Then you're also privileged if you have mental health. So if you're not crazy, that's a privilege now. So I mean, it was absurd. You look at this thing, society's out of control because the wokies, and they're the minority. It's time, and we're seeing it. We've seen it in Virginia. We're seeing it on some major marches. We're seeing now people are getting fed up, and the majority has to begin to take back this country and stop this stuff. We can't be shooting police officers just because they're wearing a uniform. We can't be allowing people to get pushed in front of subway trains by people who have got records that go back 15 years. It's just unacceptable, and something has to be done about it. And it's only the people that can make the change, because politicians don't care about you except at election time. And if it happens to poor people, let Nancy Pelosi or one of her relatives get pushed in front of a subway train, and then we're going to see some real action. We saw what happened in Chicago when they got near Lori Lightfoot's house. All of a sudden, no more defund the police. Send the Chicago PD here immediately. Activate the National Guard. They're on my front lawn. But in the south side of Chicago, where people are getting murdered every weekend, totally ignored by Lori Lightfoot.
On the south side of Chicago.
Yeah, the baddest part of town. That's right. Yeah, but now that I got that little thing out, because MAP really disturbed me today. Because
Well, it's interesting that you brought up MAP, because over the weekend, a Dartmouth police officer was arrested for rape of a child. Even our own police, I wonder if he's going around saying, no, I'm MAP, I'm MAP.
Well,
and it's aggravated rape of a child.
Yeah.
Aggravated rape of a child.
Yeah. Well,
so
I mean, there's nothing more, even in the criminal community, pedophiles, as you know, you worked in corrections. Pedophiles are not very safe in jail.
No.
That's one thing that even violates the criminal codes. That's how reprehensible this is. But remember, if you change that stigma by calling them, I mean, look, the hell, they're changing M&Ms now. now we got gender-neutral M&Ms or something. So
all they did was change their shoes. That's all they did to them. They changed their shoes.
That's how pathetic the society's coming. But something's got to be done. I mean, the country is like a third world country now. It's like walking around in Venezuela or something, and walking through the drug cartel neighborhoods. People are being killed indiscriminately on the street, carjacked, murdered, thrown in front of subway cars. This is, this country was, we have a right to be safe, and that's what government is here for. But now we're talking about government. I heard today on the radio, a little blurb, but I also got a couple calls on it, that they're talking about the CFO. The CFO, we have to get one. They're having a big search. And our illustrious mayor basically said, it's tough because of the reputation Fall River has, but he's going to take care of it because he's the great healer. But while we're on that,
the great and powerful Coogan.
As I said, they are memorializing this position now.
Oh, of course, we knew that already.
A position that didn't have. So just for the city, this is for the city council. I just took the time to, even though I knew it, I just wanted a definition, not mine, from the definition from the Oxford Dictionary.
Not that that's reputable.
Not that it's reputable. And I'll even show you what the definition is. I'll hit the audio. Treasurer. A person appointed to administer or manage the financial assets and liabilities of a society, company, local authority, or other body. So we have a treasurer who's commissioned to administer our finances. And he's got an entire department working with them. Okay?
And that position used to be held by Mary Saadi.
And by the way, we also have an auditor.
That's right.
Who helps him by tracking the money. And we know what auditor do. I'm not going to look up auditor today. Treasurer is enough. We have a treasurer. We also have a treasurer in the school department. So we don't have one, we have two treasurers in this city. And we have department heads that make their own budgets. So what do we need a CFO for? What do we need a CFO for? We don't. We never had a CFO. This isn't a multinational bank with 6 million branches throughout the entire world and trillions of dollars in assets, and we need 165 auditors and a whole bunch of other things. This is a city that has a department head that runs every department, that has to make a budget for that department. So the city finances are already put together by people. And now we have a treasurer, and had a treasurer since we've had a city, whose job it is to administer and manage the financial assets. So we got a city administrator that says, I'm not going to do the finances. Well, you're not even supposed to be doing the finances.
That's right.
I can go back to a time when they lost some money and I made an appearance in front of the council. That was before they even used cameras. It was on the radio. I still got the radio tape from WSAR. They used to put the meeting on WSAR. We were talking about $6.4 million that was missing in the budget. Doesn't seem like much today in the over $250 million budget, but in those days that was a lot of money. So, and who was at that meeting? Not the city administrator, because we had none. Not the CFO, because we didn't have one. Who was at that meeting? The city treasurer and the city auditor, to answer questions about the finances. So the moral of that story is, whether we had a treasurer and an auditor running it, or we have a treasurer, an auditor, a treasurer, an auditor in a school department, and a CFO, and a city administrator, they can lose money. Now we got 6 people to lose money instead of 4. So, you know, council, have some consideration for the taxpayer. You're a new council. And what you're doing now is you are accessories to turning the city side into the school department, where we spend all our energies figuring out how to do less with more, not more with less, to save the taxpayer some money. And I thought it was pretty refreshing, while I'm on that subject, to see, I believe he was the governor of Nebraska, giving a speech. And Nebraska has, I believe, either the lowest or the second lowest inflation rate in the country, very good economically. And you know what he was saying? It's my job. There's no state taxes there. It's a very low tax state. And is doing well economically. He said, it's my job to put money back into our people's pockets so they can stimulate the economy. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I almost fell off the couch. It was like a politician who actually understands it's not their job to just make this a massive employment agency and give out as much as our money as they can, and no matter how much we give them, they're always out of money. No matter how much they have. Remember the time we had, over $1 billion? What did we get out of that? Nothing. The taxpayer got nothing. The state was in the black.
They are right now, too.
And and we're getting nothing.
We're getting nothing.
And they're getting more from the feds. But what do you get? You get the giant barota. That's what you get.
You get the bill, baby.
That's it. Bill. All we get is the bills, and they're coming at a much higher rate later on. And I'll tell you, this CFO, this really irritates me. It's like, oh, we got to get the best. We had a mall manager. So the mall manager needed an assistant, and the other one needed a pay raise and a better title and a full-time job to help her retirement. So they create this job. And now we got a mayor who comes from the
biggest waste of money on God's green earth.
The greatest organization for bureaucratic overreach the school department. School departments, not only in Fall River, so I'm not picking on him. I'm picking on all of them.
That's right.
Because they're all the same. That's the only, government is bad enough blowing money. But the school department is actually directed to spend money because they have to get their money. So the more money they spend, the more money you get. And that's school spending. You got to meet it. You can't not give them money. It doesn't matter how they're wasting it. It doesn't matter how much, how much administration we have to do nothing. Now you could spend a week. You don't have to get suspended if you screw up in school. They just start sending you through the entire chain of bureaucrats we have now. And then you don't go to class for a week because you're sitting in meetings with the assistant vice principal, the vice principal, the principal, the assistant superintendent of schools, the assistant to the assistant superintendent of schools, the superintendent of schools, the HR, the dean of students. And by the time you get done with all those meetings, and most of those positions did not exist 30 years ago, and when we had more students and
better performance
and better academic achievement. Now we got a mayor that comes from that environment. All I ever do was sit there and say, what can we think of next? What can we think of next? Not teachers, not investing in the student, investing in their friends. Because I just like to know, someday, maybe if we ever are on speaking terms again, maybe Paul will explain to me where they came up with a dean of students. Did a whole bunch of these bureaucrats sit around a table and say to themselves, geez, what can we call it? We got to create something else. Well, when I went to college, we had deans of students. Oh, hey, that's a good idea. Let's have deans of students for preteens and early teenagers. We're going to have a dean of students for middle schools. Unbelievable. I wonder how many school systems in Massachusetts have deans of students for their middle schools. We're going to have to check that. That's a good little thing for us to dig into. Let's do that.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a definite plan. But I'll tell you now, as you said, 30 years ago, even longer, we had a small school system, we had neighborhood schools, and we had better performing students.
Yes.
Okay? Now we have large schools, a piss poor school system, and piss poor performance on the tests. So tell me how all this extra money is actually working to educate our students.
Well, it's working to make some people rich, but as you said, neighborhood schools, smaller environment, people knew each other. That's one of the reasons that they began to abandon the concepts of housing projects. You don't house them all like in a prison.
Right.
Because you get the bad element and other elements together in one group, and housing projects are a big, but they try to get away from that now, and they try to make people, give them individual units and stuff, or smaller units. And you and I, well, at least I can't speak. I very rarely agree with Steve Camara on anything,
Exactly.
And he's no relation. I very rarely agree with him on anything. We agreed about the school and the debt override. But when he talked about having 2 high schools in this city, rather than this one giant edifice to, bureaucratic spending, because, you can say what you want. It's beautiful, but they're already destroying it on the inside. Doesn't make any difference. Buildings do not educate children. We will have one of the most, if not the most, expensive high schools in the state, one of the most, and we'll have one of the lowest achievement levels. So that building is not going to immediately elevate us up to, at the top of the food chain for educating our students. And that's the point. That's the point. Having Newtonian athletic fields And the most expensive high school in the state is not going to help our students perform better. For some reason, that's been lost on the educational system, and that's why it's under attack throughout the country. I mean, the public schools are in jeopardy. People are fed up. I remember we had a debate right here in this studio some years ago about charter schools and about choice. And in many states, they're going to school choice because of the catastrophe that has become public education. And it's a lot of money spent for no return. But I just wonder why we didn't get two schools. You look over at Cranston East, Cranston West.
Warwick has 3. And they're smaller.
Smaller school populations and in a smaller community, and their educational attainment level is far better.
Exactly.
We had neighborhood schools. There's something to that than have giant warehouses for our children. So,
well, it's interesting that you should mention charter schools because Nick Chris just pulled out of the Innovators Charter School that they're trying to create.
Really?
Yep, and pulled out all his staff.
Really?
Everyone. He's been a major player in education for how long?
Yep. Oh, forever.
Forever. To the point that his wife was
especially when his spouse was in the system.
Right. And all of a sudden now he's pulling everyone back because they don't want it to be political. And
he doesn't want it to be political. That's rich.
Now here's the interesting part about it. This Innovators Charter School is being led on its creation by Jack Sprague, the former president of Bristol Community College.
Yep.
And it's going to give more choice to people, and I guess it's going to be a combination school between Fall River and New Bedford. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But charter schools have outperformed our school systems tremendously.
Yeah.
And we can't win when we're competing against a school system that actually focuses on the student.
Heaven forbid, CJ, that we do something that works. I mean, here's a classic example. We're sitting here at Bristol Community College. And to me, the community colleges are probably the one of the most effective tools that you have with the cost of education in a four-year institution. And also the kind of varied curriculum they have available at the, even for jobs that don't require a bachelor's or beyond. I know some community colleges have x-ray techs and the breathing,
respiratory
techs and
stuff.
And
here at BCC we have dental.
Yeah, dental technicians, and they have associate degrees. The community colleges to me are a classic example of money well spent. It gives somebody without the resources the ability to get into college, see if they, basically, prove they can do college level work, maybe determine what they really want to do, and then move on to a four-year institution. I mean, I saw numerous graduates from this college that started their education against single mothers who didn't get an education, got a GED, came to Bristol Community College and became class valedictorians, then moved on and became successful. So, it's not like education doesn't work, but the problem is there's certain segments of education, like the public school system, that are not working because there's way too much emphasis on bureaucracy and not enough emphasis on education.
That's true. Like I said, you got to focus on the students. Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our show. I want to thank you all for inviting us into your home today. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.